Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to first grab your favorite nighttime snack because this is storytelling time. We're going to do some wild black stories, nice and true stories. So wrap yourself in your favorite blanket, get your pillow, prop your feet up, get your favorite snack, your favorite beverage, and let's get into this nice but true stories that we can relate to. New York Times, October 24th, 2018. There's a black man in the children's area and other baseless accusation made by Brad and Becky. Readers share stories of themselves or friends and relatives deemed suspicious for simply walking around in their own black and beautiful skin. So let's get into this. And if you haven't seen the True Royal Families video with Nicety Nash, you should get over there and see it. It was good, just like all of her videos are phenomenal. So let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. There's a black man in the children's area. You know, before we get into that, I do have something hilarious to tell you. I had a person write me and tell me that I was racist. And he said he doesn't understand why I hate white people after everything they have done for us. And I looked at it, thought about the police shootings, thought about the Kroger shooting, thought about all the phone calls made on us out in public for no reason, thought about redlining, Jim Crow 2, mass incarceration, and then I laughed and deleted the message and blocked him from my channel. Moving on. There's a black man in the children's area. I'm a librarian and a white woman. A few years ago, I was working at the reference desk at a library in a suburb of Salt Lake City when an older Becky came to me and whispered, "Oh my God, there's a black man in the children's area." I looked at her with concern and replied, and what exactly would you like me to do with that information, ma'am? And she looked in complete dismay and said, "Well," she sniffed, "I just thought you should know." I replied, "I do know. That's Mr. So-and-so. He's our neighbor, and he brings his children to story time every week." I confessed that I laughed and added, "I'll be sure to inform him of your concern." She looked blanched and scolded at me and scurried away. I smiled and waved, thinking, this is the 21st century, and this is a public building, you miserable old bitch, Miss Orlando. Next true story. How can I rob this place in a blizzard wearing socks? I went to a famous medical school that I prefer not to name. I was studying in the conference room at midnight during a blizzard, wearing a baseball cap backwards, a t-shirt, and socks. Police officers approached me with reports that I was robbing the medical school and were in the process of handcuffing me when I said, "How can I rob this place in a blizzard wearing socks?" They asked for proof that I was a medical student. A bunch of medical books wasn't enough. The problem was we didn't have student IDs. This was the fifth time I was harassed by police within 6 months. Soon after, the school issued IDs so that kids of color would prove that we belong. Well, 20 years have gone by, and I routinely confuse for the janitor, despite the fact that I am the medical director and chairman for 100 plus doctors. But at least nobody calls the police anymore. JRMW, Minneapolis. You should have seen her face when I said they were with me. I'm white, but I'll never forget the time my son and his black friend, they were both about 8 or 9 at the time, went to an art store in Noe Valley, San Francisco, to get some markers. They came home empty-handed and told me the same story. A salesperson in the store followed my son's friend around, then told him to get out. I brought them back to the store and sent them in first. Then I casually walked in, not acknowledging them, and pretended to shop. Immediately, the salesperson started following my son's friend. You should have seen her face when I said they were with me. The horror of this racism is that it starts when children are so young. That's right. It's taught in the home. They teach this shit right out of the womb. It's insidious and thoroughly rooted in our society. The amount of hurt it causes is incalculable, and it has to stop. Bonnie Weinstein, San Francisco. There was a big difference between my white son walking to the store and her black son walking the same route. I'm an older white woman who shares a home with a black woman and her 2 sons. One evening, her oldest son, who was 18, wanted to walk up to the convenience store at the front of our neighborhood. She would not let him. She insisted that she drive him there. I gave her a bit of a hard time about babying her 18-year-old, telling her that my son used to make that same walk all the time when he was younger and that it was perfectly safe. A week or two later, there was an incident, not all that far from us, where a young black man was killed by a fearful white man with a gun. The boy was simply taking a shortcut through a neighborhood and ended up dead. As my friend and I watched the news, I apologized to her for giving her a hard time. I had forgotten that there was a big difference between my white son walking to the store and her black son walking the same route. Patio Deltona. They played football and are black. I am white and petite. Once in high school, my future husband and his friends gave me a ride home from school. I was happy because I didn't have a car and I hated taking the bus. My husband and his friends were all big boys. They played football and are black. I am white and petite. We were pulled over by the police. He asked me to get out of the car, so I did. Then he asked me if I was safe and if I had gone willingly. I was only 17, and it was a huge eye opener for me. My parents didn't raise me with any racist or bigoted ideas. I was more shocked than the other people in the car. We've been together for 27 years now, and I'm thankful most people are kind and accepted us. They have been other incidents, but this one sticks with me the most. D. Lamar, rural Southern California. It doesn't matter. In situations like that, they always assume that, these white girls are kidnapped, and that's far from the truth. She was sure she belonged. In 2002, I was with a group of students serving internships in Washington. Our internship program had arranged a visit to the Library of Congress so that we could get researcher cards and take a tour. A couple of days later, during our seminar, our professor asked about the visit. One student, the only Black student in our group, told us how a staff person at the Library of Congress had asked her if she belonged with our tour. And when she said yes, was further questioned on whether she was sure she belonged. We were all mortified and outraged. I wish we'd known in the moment that that had happened to her. I do know the professor complained to the Library of Congress, but I don't know that anything else was done. I was shocked that happened in 2002, shocked that it's still going on in 2018. I guess I shouldn't be. AJ, California. I had to give my 6-year-old brown son the talk 25 years ago while attending my husband's family reunion in Bergen County, New Jersey, a very affluent neighborhood. My son, being the only brown boy among his blonde, brunette, and redhead white cousins, was playing and throwing golf balls he found into a pond. Okay. A police officer sitting in his patrol car followed him around, shouting through his bullhorn to drop the golf balls that were laying around. My son was frightened until a very thoughtful white woman escorted my son to his aunt's house and informed me of what had occurred. It was that evening I had my first I had to first give my 6-year-old brown son the talk. I feared for his life then, and I still do today. Cinnamon Roots, Brooklyn. That's a terrible thing, but One thing Black parents must do is prepare our children, especially when they are leaving the house every day and starting school. You can't let them go out there and not know the truth about what this world really is like. She said that it just didn't look right. Isn't that amazing? When it comes down to us, it never looks right. I'm just saying. Sadly, this happened here in Canada too. A woman once called the police to report that she had seen a Black man driving a car with two white children in it. When she was asked if the children were in distress or anything of that nature, she said no. When asked what made her call, she said that it just didn't look right. She was informed by the police officer that if the car was a certain make and model, it was probably the officer's husband with his two children. My wife, the officer, is white, and I'm Black. Destin, Toronto. So when she called the police station to report it, she was actually calling on the police officers that worked at the police station, and that was apparently a swirling couple. There were always looks and snide comments. For the last 18 years, I've mentioned three different young men of color through a large national organization. I've done it in two of America's largest cities. I can't count the number of times there's been grief from my fellow white people when they'd see us together at restaurants, stores, movie theaters, sporting events. There were always looks and snide comments. I didn't Don't get me started on the rare occasion when one of the young men would wander away from me in a store. They'd follow by security. So the security people would follow them, management, you name it. Sadly, it was usually in predominantly white neighborhoods, where I never ever had an issue. In neighborhoods where the people were predominantly non white. So I'm not surprised at all by these incidents. I am, however, saddened, as I truly thought they were on the decline. Martin B., New York. Unfortunately, Martin B., New York, these things are increasing because we can't go through a week without one of these stories cropping up. And the ones that we actually see on social media are minimal, actually, to the ones that never make it onto social media. And as you can hear in each one of these stories, they never made it onto social media, but it still happened. Unfortunately, these things happen all the time. Many of us have our own stories. But see, I've gotten to the point in my life, I don't put up with that anymore. If I walk in a store and I know that I'm being followed, I now shop, make sure I fill the cart all the way up to the top, and then I walk out the store and leave it right there for them to put it all back. I don't let it bother me anymore. I stopped letting that bother me a long time ago. But I have not run into too many people, even around in my local community, that can't tell you these stories, They all can. Relatives, friends, even people I've seen online that I don't personally know, but I've heard their stories or seen video footage of incidents online. And you know something, ladies and gentlemen? Very few of these stories are justifiable on the part of the person that's doing the complaining. But they have been taught. This is all taught behavior that you're seeing. And they have been taught that they have the right to demand to know what we are doing at all times. And that is indeed not their right, nor will it ever be their right. So I wish I could say these are the last times it will happen, but we all know the truth, ladies and gentlemen. We know this will happen again, again, and again. And I pray, since all of these incidents are very public, that our people will do the right thing by your children and teach them the truth of what America really, truly is. This place is not united. It never was united. It never will be. Everything that you see today points back to centuries ago and been passed down all through the generations. It's a damn shame that they choose to pass these sort of attitudes down through the generations instead of something good or useful. It's easy to be negative. It's hard to be positive. But how do you demand that people be positive when these things are constantly happening? And you've seen these stories. Some of these stories were from 25 years ago. And it's no different than many of the stories that we see today. There will be no legislation to change this in Washington, D.C. There will be no police demanding that these people stop because these are their deputized foot soldiers outside of the police force. And they still think there are overseers, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they think they are. But see, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, America's on the decline. In fact, America's in free fall. And these folks that are doing this, their numbers are declining so fast. And they can't do a damn thing to change it. Trying to give preferential treatment is now doing them in. And being a racist is not what it used to be. Now, once these stories go online, they get fired from their jobs. And they have to go into hiding because of what they claim or emails and threats to their lives or whatever. You know, I can't feel bad for you when you put yourself out there in the first place. You know, all you had to do was mind your own business and you would still be employed, have your job, and life would go on. So the fact that you stopped and went out of your way to question a non issue says more about you than the person that you're questioning. You know, we can look back at this and we know how silly it is, ladies and gentlemen, but it's no laughing matter when it happens to our children. When these folks will make up a situation, or we have even seen them get on 911 and make up a crime that's not even going on. Like in the case of Emmett Till, you know, that call to the police and falsified police report cost him his life. A person sitting in a park while Tamir Rice was playing with his toy gun made a phone call and it cost him his life. You know, something is wrong when a stranger can spot you out in public and don't care that you're a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, and that somebody really loves and cares about you. But their goal is to see if they can get 911 to bring out some crazed out cop that will take their side of everything and shoot you to death over a bunch of nothing. These folks that are calling the police, ladies and gentlemen, they have been doing this stuff for a lifetime. Trust me, they didn't look at you and that was their first phone call to the police on a black person. They've been doing this all throughout their life. And I bet you, if you really investigated, and we have some of them, you would find out many of them have a history of doing this. This is what they do. Now you can see how easy it was to scream rape or anything else and get a black man lynched just on someone's word and nothing else. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, no one looks at America in the same way that they did even 20 years ago. Even foreign nations, I talk to people outside of America through email, and everybody sees that America is slipping away. It does not have the power and influence that it used to have in this world. And when you see how silly some of these people are in America, you wonder how they even had influence in the first place. Seriously. Well, ladies and gentlemen, nothing is going to change. But we certainly can change the way that we react to these things. Keep on posting it on social media whenever you can. And as tough as it may be sometimes, let your children watch this. Because this is really a good learning experience for them. They really need to see the truth about how many of these folks operate in life. Let them see the truth and learn. And when you're out in public and your children are out in public, just go on about your business. Mind your business and do what you got to do and make it back home. Don't get involved in any of their public displays out here. Just walk away. I'm glad we get to see these things. I think if I was in school right now and if I had to do a school project, this would be the one for social studies that I would do. All of the bogus calls made on Black people in America. And these folks got the nerve to think they deserve some respect, huh? How laughable. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And please show your support by becoming a patron, donating to PayPal. Believe me, it is you that keep this channel going. And those of you that already support my channel, I want to say thank you. Thank you. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way off of this premiere, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family.